Jesus has just told the disciples that he was heading to Jerusalem, not to see the temple, not to tour the olive gardens of Jerusalem, not to have an audience with the priests or, for that matter, the governor. He was going there to lay down his life. He says it as simple as that. I am going to Jerusalem in order to be handed over to the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders, and be killed. Oh, the disciples didn't like that. They did not like to hear that. Nobody likes to hear bad news, if that is how we perceive it. Peter takes Jesus aside and says, "No, Lord, never must this happen to you." And Jesus rebukes him. "Get behind me, Satan." He says harsh words, if you will. "Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man." What is your mind set on this morning? May I ask? What did you come in thinking about this morning as you walked up the steps into the sanctuary? What are you thinking you will be doing when you leave this place? What's on your mind? What's eating you? What is troubling you? What is distressing you? Anything that you heard this morning on the news, or a telephone call from a family member, or maybe on WhatsApp? What's on your mind? What concerns you today is the question for us. The Old Testament story is a fascinating story. It's one of the best and most loved of all the stories of the Bible. I love it myself. I've known this story ever since I was a toddler. The story of baby Moses. I mean, who wouldn't like that? Here was this tiny, innocent baby who's just born, whose life is in danger. According to the edict of Pharaoh, any Hebrew male child born must be thrown in the river Nile, must be killed. That's not good news. Certainly not for a parent like Jochebed. She didn't want to see her little baby son be killed by the soldiers of Pharaoh. She hides him in a basket. And then she puts that basket on the top of the river and tells her daughter Miriam to go and keep an eye on her brother. Nice, warm, heartwarming story, isn't it? It's a human story. Wouldn't you take care of your brother if your mother told you to? Don't answer that question. Most of us would certainly want to make sure that if we had a young brother or a sister, we would do all that we possibly can to make sure that that child is safe. Miriam did the same thing. And yet, we know the story. Moses grew up in the palace of Pharaoh, regarded as the son of the queen, given all the comforts and advantages, privileges of being a royal. But he knew who he was. When he saw that one of the Pharaoh's taskmasters was oppressing the Hebrew slave, he went in defense. Why would he do that? He knew who he was. And he thought this was the right thing to do, to stop this oppression, and he goes and kills the Egyptian. Consequently, he is running for his life. He leaves Egypt for good. He was 40 at that time, and he wandered through the desert, and he came upon a family in Midian, the family of Jethro, the priest of Midian, pagan, who welcomed him, who received him, who gave him protection and shelter, and not only that, but also gave him one of his daughters in marriage. Moses must have said, I am a lucky guy. Here I am, a fugitive from Pharaoh, running for my life, have nobody in this world, and yet God provided this family, and now I have a family of my own. He was working for his father-in-law. He was taking care of the flock of Jethro. 40 more years go by, and now Moses is what? 80 years old. There are very few of us in this room, I'm sure, who can claim to be 80 plus. Don't tell me who you are. I have a long time to get there. Moses is probably saying to himself, I am at the end of my life. I'm done. I have done my part. I have done whatever I could do. It did not work out. It failed miserably. I tried to do it, tried to help my people, but God was not in it, so I'm just washing my hands. I'm just content taking care of the sheep and watching over my father-in-law's estate, and I am happily married. I have my own children. I am fine. Finally retired. I had that feeling a few years ago when completing my tenure in the United Methodist Church as an ordained elder, serving 5 or 6 different churches. Coming to the end of that period of my life at 65, and I said to the bishop and the cabinet, thank you so much. It was a wonderful privilege. And now I'm packing my bags and going into retirement. Well, hardly 2 years go by when a phone rings from the DS. David. That's a very familiar voice. God calls her, Moses, and he said, here I am. But he doesn't know what God has in God's mind. God always has God's concerns on his mind. And that, of course, by the way, includes all of us. You are part of God's concern. Moses, here I am, he says. And God says, I am the God of your father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I have seen the affliction of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cry. I have seen their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and bring them out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Blah, blah, blah. And Moses has no problem listening to all that. And now, verse 9, behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I have seen the oppression of the Egyptians. Come, I am sending you to Pharaoh. Oh no, you got the wrong number here, God. Don't you see that I'm already past all that? I've done that. It didn't work out. God, have you forgotten what I did back in Egypt when I was the prince of Egypt? I tried to save these people. I even risked my own life in order to help one of them. It didn't work out, God, and it's not going to work out. If it didn't work out when I was 40, what's the telling that it's going to work out when I'm 80? The things of God. No, David, you're not done yet. There's 2 more churches out there in Hunterdon County. They're called Pattenburg and Everittstown. I'm sending you there. Are you thinking that about yourself? There's nothing more for me to do. I've done my part. I am now 50 or 60, 70 or 80, or in Boyd's case I know it's 90. Are you saying I'm done with my life? I'm just spending the evening of my life, just taking it easy. Oh yeah, I go to the men's breakfast once in a while. And I do attend, what's that, gifts and gifts of the Spirit. What do you? Many gifts, one Spirit. I go once in a while when I can, when I get a ride. I attend the soup suppers or special Lenten services. I do go to the Bible study if it's on Zoom. I do my part. But beyond that, God, I am done. I am physically exhausted. I am feeble. I am not able to do a lot of things that I could have done 40 years ago. Now it's a different story. God says no. God says no to Moses. Moses says, God, who am I that I go to Pharaoh and bring the children out of Israel, out of Egypt? God said, I will be with you, unlike the last time. Moses, the last time you tried to do what you did, you thought you were serving God, but you did it your way. You tried to do it in your own wisdom, understanding, knowledge, power. It didn't work out because I was not with you at that time. But this time he says, I will be with you. God reveals his name for the very first time. Moses, I am who is sending you. I am. That's my name. Tell my people that I am Jehovah who is sending you to redeem them, to bring them out of their oppression and to bring them to this land. Peter didn't understand what Jesus was saying. Peter was just like one of us. You know, we are smart, we have intelligence, we've been to school, we've been around, life has taught us a lot of lessons, so we know things, how things work in life. So Jesus, don't tell me that it's going to be okay if you go to Jerusalem and you get trapped by these people and they're going to kill you. Don't tell me that's okay, Jesus. That's not okay. Peter, you have the things of man on your mind. You're thinking like a man. You're not thinking like God. You're not having that perspective that God has. Peter, don't forget, this is the reason I came. To lay down my life for the people, to redeem Israel, to bring them out of the darkness of sin and slavery, to give them a new identity, to give them a place at the table so that they can come and have communion. If Jesus didn't go to Jerusalem, had he listened to Peter, you and I wouldn't be here. You and I wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell, as some say, to become right with God. Absolutely no way. But that is how the mind of God works. That Peter did not see. All he saw was suffering and death, and he didn't want to have it. I know sometimes you and I go through life with all the challenges that it can bring, the trials that it can bring, the hopelessness that it can bring, the distress and pain that it can bring. I've seen some of it. Probably you've seen more of it than I have. And yet, this is one thing I know. That God doesn't allow anything to come into your life or to my life without His expressed permission, will, and purpose. Moses, it's not going to be easy for you when you go back to Pharaoh and say, let my people go. He's not going to say, all right. No, he's not going to do it. In fact, I would have to rain down 10 plagues on him before he will let my people go. But don't be afraid, because I am with you. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what struggles you're up against in your life. I only know what I go through in my life. And I know that when I surrender my things to God's hands and say, God, I don't understand what you're trying to do here. I don't get it. But I'm willing to trust you because you're saying, I am going to be with you. I will hold you. I will uphold you. I will strengthen you. I will give you courage and wisdom to go forward. Lord, I will trust you. These past 3 or 4 years have been wonderful for me to be here, to be with you, to join you every week in worship, celebration of God's goodness in all of our lives. This has been a good journey for me. I hope that you find God with you every waking moment of your life. I hope and trust that you are able to sense that presence of God. Even though you probably don't have a staff like Moses had, yet you know the Word of God is with you. You know that the people of God are with you. You know the prayers of the church are with you. Even when you don't come, the church is praying for you. That's what I said this morning. I said, you may think that there's nothing for me to do. I can't drive. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yes, but you can pray. There are a lot of people who need prayer today. A lot of our children need prayer. Do you know someone in college? Someone starting a new grade in school? Pray for them. Don't think, oh, they'll be fine. No, they're not going to be just fine. You need to pray for them. You need to hold them up. Maybe somebody is sick and you need to pray for that person and bring that person to the throne of God. Maybe somebody lost a family member, a wife or a husband, a son, daughter, brother, sister, I don't know. Whatever. If somebody has lost somebody, pray for them. Don't take it for granted that they'll be all right. Pray. That's one thing that you can do. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to drive anywhere. Pray for one another. Pray for the church. Pray for our community. Pray for our country. Pray for its leaders. Rather than feel negative and bitter about what is going on in our country or in other countries around the world, pray. Trust in the Lord. Know that God has a purpose and a plan bigger than anything that you can imagine. And trust in His goodness. He will bring it to pass. You do not understand, Peter, says Jesus, because you are concerned about earthly things, material things, physical things. Have in your mind the concerns of God.